Hello, this is Wargames Atlantic and I'm... Oh, well, wait a second. Hi, this is Mouse Painting Minis. I'm Drew. I had a spinal cord injury about 8 years ago and I became a quadriplegic, which means I can't use my legs at all and I've got limited use of my arms. I enjoyed some painting in the hospital during rehab. This is an example of something I painted by strapping a brush to my hand. And then I tried by using a lot more control. And this is a picture that I painted with my mouth. But miniatures has always been something that I didn't think would be possible. For the past 8 years I've wanted to do it but never give it a try. Up until about 2 weeks ago when I thought, you know what, I'll just give it a go. Yeah, I've started painting with my mouth, so this channel's kind of dedicated to the projects I'm working on, and hopefully it'll inspire some more people to give painting a go, even if they don't think it's possible. Today we're going to do one unit from my made-up regiment called the Scafell Mountain Rangers. I will go into a bit more about the lore and stuff of these guys later, but what I'm using for this project is the Italians from Wargames Atlantic and the Deathfields, which is also another set from Wargames Atlantic. I'm going to be kit bashing them together with help from my friend Adam. But we're going to start by doing the modelling, which is probably one of my favourite parts of the whole process. It's really relaxing, just enjoy doing it.
I need my glasses for this, man. These things are tiny.
Put your fingers.
Doesn't help.
Could you just scrape that mould line off? Just
what?
The mould line on his leg.
Mould line?
Yeah.
Well, the old? What do you mean? How are they mouldy?
No, it's just when they take them off the sprue sometimes there's a little...
Sprue?
This thing. Plastic thing.
What?
Oh, you! Cut his leg off.
Oh, yep. Yeah. I'll glue another one on. These are being kit slashed anyway, right?
Oh, you've cut his leg off.
Do me best. I've never picked one of these little up before. Can't even see it. Just what?
You just glued his head on backwards there.
Backwards? Well, these can be the owl class warriors. They've got 360 degree vision so they can see tigers attacking or something, right? Did you know tigers attack from behind? So that's useful.
Right, scrape that.
Look,
you're going to have to re-glue.
I am scraping it. Right? Just give me a second.
No, not that bit.
I'm just going to scrape this bit off.
No, but
look!
Right, so Adam and I had a few minor creative differences on the modelling. His first attempt wasn't quite what I expected, but eventually he was able to take some time to cool off and we came up with this little fella. He's been primed. We would have got that on camera, but there's a little bit of a disagreement there as well, so we did that off camera, but yeah, he's good to go. To start the kit bash, I used this advancing body from the Italian sprue, and then I moved on to this forage cap, just to go with the Mountain Ranger theme. We then took this little ammunition pouch and stuck it on the chest of the advancing figure, just to make it look like a chest rig. Then I moved on to the cannon fodder sprue, taking the left arm with the grenade and the right arm with the gun held out in front, cutting off the bayonet. Then I used this backpack that had a grappling hook and some rope, just to go again with the Mountain Ranger theme. Before I start painting, I'll just talk you through the painting setup I'm using today. My normal wheelchair is currently getting repaired, so I'm in this manual chair, which means I had to kind of adjust it a little bit more than I usually would. So we'll put this wooden box on top of a tray just to get the right height. Then I attached this paint pot and this cheap little palette, which I put my paints in. I can't move my hands or my wrists at all, but I can move my arms, which makes it so I can manipulate things using my arms, but I can't hold a brush in my hands and I don't really have much control, so it's very unsteady. Next we took this old tripod and made it as short as we could, and we attached this plastic to it, and this means I'm able to rotate it so I can get at the figures from 360 degrees. And this is what the setup looks like. It's not ideal, but it does a pretty good job, and it's still a work in progress.
Right, so moving on to the painting part of the video. Obviously this isn't a tutorial as I'm no expert, but this is just how I painted the miniature. So I started off using the Army Painter speed paint range, and I used dark wood to block in the colours on his shoes and the rope on his backpack. Then I moved on to camo cloak, and I painted his forage cap, his backpack and his trouser fatigues. I also painted his chest rig as well with that colour. I think that was some fluff on the end of my brush that Adam was getting for me. I moved on to Gravelord Grey. I painted the little daggers on his backpack and the barrel of his gun. Then I got Sand Golem. I painted in his smock, and this gave a kind of mustardy yellow colour with kind of a deep orangey tone, so it's quite different to how it looks on the bottle. Then I used Grim Black to paint in his gun. I got his hand a little bit there, but I can fix that later with some white. Painted his puttees or gaiters with pallid bone. I moved on to Crusader skin, and I carefully painted his face and his hands. Now that all the base coating's done, I grabbed an older brush and I used green ochre to highlight his smock. Then I added a little bit of white to that once it had dried, and I did another quick dry brush of the smock, and I did a little bit of a dry brush on his gaiters as well. This just captured all the raised areas and give it a bit more depth. To highlight all of the green parts, I used Russian uniform. So I did his hat, his backpack, his trousers and his chest rig.
I think 'cause I'm in this other chair, my shoulders, my neck are getting pretty tight because I'm having to lean over much further. Could you pass that massager for us, please?
The what?
The shoulder massager.
The what?
The vibrator.
The dildo?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I don't think this is helping. I think this makes it harder.
Keep going, I'm close.
And then I got some flat earth. I know a guy who's got a theory about this colour. And I carefully painted in his hair. And then I started dotting in the brown camo. You don't need to be that careful with this part. But then when you move on to the green, using bronze green, you've got to be slightly more careful. And then when you move on to the white section of the camouflage, this is the part that made me nervous because it's easy to spot a mistake on this part, so I was really careful with that bit and it's a bit stressful. So at this point I'm really happy with the way he's looking. So now it's all about just touching him up and finishing him off. Actually that sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? So what I thought would be the final step is adding this Vallejo sepia tone dipping formula, but unfortunately I'd never used it before and I probably shouldn't have tried on this model because it came out a lot thicker and a lot darker than I would have liked, and to be honest it kind of wrecked it. Fixing that stupid mistake took about 2 hours, but eventually with some more dry brushing and redoing the camouflage and his skin and well pretty much the whole model, I managed to get it finished and I'm pretty happy with the way it looks, so I'll show you that in a second. Well, that was hard work, but we eventually got it done. Now, as we do the glamour shots, we're going to have some epic background about the Scafell mountain ranges. So Adam's going to do that for me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a comment, because maybe I'll make some more. But yeah, that was the Scafell mountain ranges. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you next time.
Roughly 3,000 years ago, an Imperial expeditionary force was sent into the southeast of the Eastern Fringe to deal with an orc war. After the fleet was attacked, they landed on the nearest habitable planet. This became known as Concordia. The crashed fleet, consisting of around 100,000 survivors, made up of Astra Militarum, troops and support staff, founded the new colony of Concordia. Left unsupported by the Imperium for millennia, the population grew into the billions, settling on the northern hemisphere of the planet. After hundreds of years of civil wars and battles with the local population of Xenos, they were eventually able to gain a foothold in the region, creating their own civilization on the continent known as North Concordia. However, ongoing attacks from both orcs and clans of more primitive humans left over from the civil wars are still a serious concern. The planet is perpetually engaged in total war, seemingly with no hope for resolution. From the capital of Mosa to even the most provincial town, large standing armies are essential. Every child born holds the rank of private and is conscripted by the age of 16. Creating a natural defensive barrier between the orcs and the North Territory of the continent, the Scarfell mountain range is guarded by the elite alpine warriors known as the Scarfell Mountain Rangers. The soldiers of the Scarfell Mountain Rangers spend their lives in this rugged terrain and know the mountains inside out. Following basic training and a harsh battery of tests, these soldiers must first serve 2 years fighting in a standard unit of the Planetary Defense Force before they are eligible for the SMR selection. To earn the coveted Alpine Cap made famous by the Rangers, recruits must pass 3 grueling final trials. The first is the Marksman Test. This can only be passed by a small percentage of the finest sharpshooters. The second is the Navigation and Endurance Test, giving entrants just 24 hours to navigate over 60 miles of mountain range in a variety of terrains, weather fronts, and altitudes. The third and final test demands recruits raid an orc settlement and, with only a sidearm and a knife, to return with the head of an orc. Successful recruits tend to be less physically imposing than most Imperial Guard, but what they lack in muscle mass, they more than make up for in tenacity, skill, and endurance. Only 2% of all applicants are successful, ensuring only the creme de la creme are selected. Owing to the nature of the terrain, Scarfell mountain rangers need to travel light in small squads. They carry Concordia pattern lass rifles, are uniformed in arid cam smocks and boreal cam fatigues, sometimes supported by light infantry vehicles capable of traversing the rugged terrain. Despite their minimal arsenal, slight stature, and limited number, the SMR are a force to be reckoned with. Their unmatched knowledge of the land and use of guerrilla tactics makes them a serious threat to anything and everything in their path.